Heart of Oak is brought to you by Timberland Pro, Marvin Windows and Doors, Midcape and AZEC Trim,
and these valued partners. Our first project was really for us. We renovated it by ourselves and then we turned around and sold it and did pretty well. So we said, let's do another one.
I kind of was avoiding client work because I didn't want the complexities of managing the relationship of the client when I first started, because I just wanted to keep it simple.
The third one that we did was the catalyst for our first customer. The original client came to us and asked if we would consider selling it to them before we completed it. That's kind of how the journey of our customer end of our business started.
And that slowly migrated to me taking on clients kind of inadvertently by pre-selling those projects. Soon enough, I started getting inquiries about doing large jobs. At that point, I had to come up with a spec sheet and a process around managing the client. This kind of continued to develop. As a result, I was getting a ton of business and I needed help. As a small business owner, hiring your first employee is a big deal, because now all of a sudden you have another family to feed. And then one turns into three, turns into five. And now all of a sudden you have a staff. All of this happened so fast. I went from a guy in a truck building houses with his dog to a CEO.
When the pandemic hit, we had a bunch of client work lined up and it just vaporized.
I just lost a deal.
PJ had a moment of panic.
I have no idea, that's why I'm calling you.
I can't help you.
And then about a month or two later, we got inundated with people who wanted to redo their homes. Because at that point, people had been stuck at home for 2 months. And that's kind of where the boom of our customer work started. And it just hasn't really slowed down.
My name is Hadley Walsh. I own this home with my husband, Jack, here in Hingham, Massachusetts. I actually met Lizzy socially first, and then when we started to really think about our own project, I reached out to PJ and I just said, do you take on renovations? And he said, let me take a look.
I had driven by many times. It's hard not to notice. It's one of those iconic homes in town. But I didn't realize how big the house was. When you walk in that house, you have this grand entrance and this big grand staircase, and the rooms are huge and the ceiling heights are high.
Hingham is a very historical town. We live in a home that was built in 1738. The opportunity with the clients from North Street to help them re-envision their house, it was really exciting for me.
So all the rails getting changed, obviously. Crown's going up here.
So we have to talk about this built-in area. We normally build new homes or renovate homes that are not even close to as old.
These are the historic photos.
Oh my God.
The old tower, which
It's crazy. It looks huge.
it was a Universalist church for the first 100 years. And then for the second 100-ish years, it was an Oddfellows hall.
This started as a kitchen renovation, and then it turned into a bear of a project. Old homes is kind of in my DNA growing up here, but houses like this are really complex. We just go into it knowing that we're gonna hit problems. You're really taking a leap of faith. And so when people hire us in a home like this, they're really trusting that A, we know what we're doing, and B, we're able to pivot in these moments where you need to make decisions.
I know, I've gone back and forth with what we should do.
I think you should find
The mattress.
the mattress.
Okay.
And then we will design it around that. And not only make the right decision, but execute it well. And if you're in it and you're ripping it apart, you might as well just do it all in one shot.
No, yeah, I think that's a great plan.
I've been a little bit more inspired than I have been on other builds to actually dig a little deeper. I'm gonna head into Boston. It's gonna give me inspiration to adapt into the building. So to walk down the street in Back Bay and see the first Unitarian church in the city of Boston is really cool, because we're about to work in the first Universalist church in Hingham on North Street. You don't realize that this place burned down. The only part of the church that survived was this corridor and this column up here. Back in the 70s, Paul Rudolph, this very famous brutalist architect, won the bid to do the rehab of the back half. Rudolph actually designed Boston City Hall. Either people love it or they hate it, and he uses a lot of metal. He uses a ton of concrete. But even more importantly, he uses this iconic corduroy finish, and you can see that in this building as well. Even though you can tell it's new construction, it works. I always want to have a seamless transition from old to new. On our way to the north end, we passed King's Chapel, which has an original Revere bell in it. We heard it ring, which was amazing. I know Paul Revere was an independent contractor. He was self-employed. He was an entrepreneur. And so whenever I walk by that place, it gives me motivation. The thing that I'm really looking forward to most is getting over to Cambridge. We reached out to Jane from the dance complex because we heard that this was an Oddfellow Lodge. So this space is awesome. Almost 30 years ago, she was a janitor, and then she slowly worked her way up, and you realize how much love she has for this building. It just exudes from her.
History is important, and preserving those things that have been covered up. It's very important to uncover them and let them breathe again and show them the light of day.
Tell me about the Oddfellow involvement with the building.
They designed and built it. They didn't cut corners.
This is very cool.
This building is over 100 years old. It gets pounded on 7 days a week, and it's still standing. This beam here in the center runs the entire width.
Even after all of these years, you're finding surprises. It's just really fun to see that you can continue to uncover the past.
I have looked and looked and looked, and there's no place like this. I think the Oddfellows' level of respect for love, truth, and friendship should be universal.
Well, thank you for having us here. It's oddly familiar walking through North Street, and to walk through here, it's very inspiring, and hopefully we can resurrect it as well as you have here. I'm excited to take everything I learned today and kind of come back and start to dissect the house.
I think we're pushing them a little bit because I'm more of a traditional aesthetic than what they typically do.
If you have someone's trust in the beginning, it makes the decisions to change things or adjust or pivot a little bit easier.
And when you have these really complicated jobs, you have fires popping up every day that if those little things don't get taken care of, it slows process down, right? But having the right people is integral. And Dennis is great. He goes in and he has this wide breadth of knowledge of different trades. He knows how to do any quirky thing you could think of. He is like the ultimate handyman.
Through school, I was nicknamed MacGyver because I was always fixing things.
Tom, just like everybody on my team, has taken on more responsibility and he's executing. So the more he executes, the more I trust him and the more I want to give him more responsibility.
North Street's different than any other project that we've done yet. It's not the typical oak build where we're building additions on and totally changing the look of it. You know, we're working with old versus new.
Matt has so much patience and he's so detail-oriented and has so much experience with so many different types of carpentry.
You eventually build like a relationship with the house and you're like, okay, you're not gonna work with me today or you are gonna work with me, and it doesn't really help you to lose your patience because then that's when the house wins.
So we have our team in place. We know the history of the home. We have a client that somehow is trusting us to rip it apart. Now we just gotta get in there and do it. So what's up with North Street? What's happening?
Still trying to figure out the trim. They need to talk to you about it.
Okay, what's up?
So it just dives in, it's like a wedge, and the trim doesn't look.
Because the house is uneven?
Yeah, it's an old house. So trying to make the new fit the old.
There's only so much you can do in a home like this unless you fully gut it. For example, the floor in the living room, once we opened it up, we realized it was completely compromised.
North Street opened up a lot of unforeseen things for us.
We had a floor that was 6 inches out of level over 20 feet. That is this far out of level. So if you had a piece of furniture, it would be cocked over sideways. You're gonna take that apart. You're opening a can of worms. You're basically ripping the floor out and then trying to figure out how to reframe it on the fly.
We had to sit down with the framers and figure out a way that structurally we could make it happen and pull it off, but also get it done safely.
As I'm walking through this house, I'm seeing so many things that could go wrong. Reviewing the budgets between tomorrow and Monday, so I might not be able to be totally accurate on cost yet.
Not all these walls are straight.
You can see like how that right side is like 2 inches lower than that side.
If not more.
The floor has a hump in it. The whole back of the house is rotted. We didn't know what was in the walls.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We didn't realize there were these huge beams in the middle of all of the windows. You know, moving these windows to save the beams. And
All the framing's balloon framing, which means the framing goes from the first floor up through the second floor, which is not a typical standard way of framing houses. Nowadays, when you open up a new construction house, every stud's 16 on center. But when you open up an old wall, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I'll take a measurement off the window.
now we have to move the orientation of the windows. And then there's a couple spots on the ceiling over by the back door and in the kitchen where the trim is cut down really thin from like 6 inches to 2 inches. But then how do we hide this seam?
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's nothing you can do about that.
I'm at a total loss for words right now. It was a logistical nightmare, honestly.
But the nightmare that we fully expected. As a contractor, love thinking about the fact, like, how did they actually get this 800-pound, 30-foot long beam into the roof of this thing 30 feet in the air? They had no machines. They had ropes, pulleys, and they had drills that were done by hand. They didn't have screws. It's crazy. When you go into the attic and you look up, it looks like a ship upside down. And it's because they were built by ship makers. Hingham was a shipyard. I was so excited to just explore it. I never expected what was in that attic. We found that old ladder. Then there was this like creepy cross in the corner that we found that we left up there because it was not a good idea to remove. That's strange.
I'm not superstitious. All my tools are accounted for.
Down in the corner was something rolled up, and I knew immediately that it was something really old. The second I picked it up, the thing was flaking apart. It was like tissue paper. It was very frail. I immediately went into preservation mode. I rolled it up, put it in my truck, and drove straight to the frame shop in town. When we ripped the ceiling down on the second floor and we found that tin ceiling, we were like, whoa, hit the brakes. Don't throw it away. We're like, oh, how can we use this? This is the tin that we took off the original ceiling, which is under there, right? So the plan is to reuse this in some way here. Maybe do like a wood trim around it. Sometimes I have to remember how special it is to live in this area and to know that every single house around here has something unique in it, and it's all just sitting there waiting to be found.
This home at North Street has so much history behind it.
It's a landmark for Hingham. We wanted to keep the history in place for the town, for the family, and ultimately everybody that passes that road.
This house really is the epitome of a traditional New England home, which I love. So choosing fixtures was not in the typical path that we do, but really not hard because the house has such a presence. It helped to dictate how we were gonna design it. On the third floor, they have this stained glass window that's beautiful and that you can see from the outside of the home. But on the inside, it was completely covered and behind a wall. So the goal was to figure out how to open that up and make it part of the space.
They said, oh, well, by the way, we have this like awesome attic and this amazing glass window. And they're like, well, can we do anything with that? And I was like, yes, let's do it. So that window, since the early 1800s, has always been hidden in an attic, and the only way you saw it was from outside.
It's a great idea, opening it up.
We're not trying to force anything that's gonna potentially break the stained glass. When the guys were working on it, I was like, do not break this thing. Imagine. I mean, if they broke that, you're a jack of all trades, you could fix it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Up there with toothpaste?
A little bit more than that.
Could you do stained glass?
Yeah.
You know how to do stained glass? Like for real?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Every day he finds out that I can do a little bit more.
I've walked through the house and I've kind of decided how we're gonna move through this project. I think you'll have to go right here somewhere, straight through. I think we have 85 cabinets coming. We've got really detailed crown molding. We've got a butler's pantry, this crazy spiral staircase, all sorts of outside of the box things. My clients actually went to a salvage place and found a newel post that they fell in love with. And so they brought it to us and said, can we integrate this into the staircase? And the answer was yes, but it's not gonna be easy.
Did you see this?
Yeah, so this is crazy. This is bad.
It's been a very collaborative process to bring this house into the next phase of its life.
Could it be any louder here?
Whatever. Let's keep it going.
Now, the hardest part of the job begins.
We have to fix the subflooring before the floors go down. And the floors don't go down. The cabinet guys can't put the cabinets in. Cabinets can't go in, the countertop can't go in, the plumbing can't get fixed. If that first domino doesn't fall, the next domino won't.
When you're doing a project like this, you want to be here for every decision that's made, and we're in the final stretch and we're leaving. Okay, like good luck.
The owners are now going away for 10 days while we finish the project.
In those last 10 days, home really comes to life.
All you can ask for as a contractor is for clients that allow you to be creative and do your best work. All this reclaim, this is all the stuff that came out of the walls.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a bar top out of it.
Nice.
The deadline is approaching. We're a couple days out. They're coming home. They're moving in. This is a lot of pressure. So all we gotta do is fix that deck and fix up some of these rails and we're done back here.
This one was, again, an all hands on deck project at the end.
It's always Murphy's Law when you're wrapping something up. Something inevitably pops up, and then the painters call me telling me that there's a massive leak in the bathroom. I called Dennis right away.
My phone's on 24 hours a day. It always has been, so, when he calls me, I respond, hey, I'm on my way.
Dennis to the rescue. Dennis was over here within 5 minutes. Dennis cut the wall open, found the problem, fixed it. You look sweaty. You look wet.
Found the leak.
Good job. I thought I was walking into a mess. Now we're starting to put things back together, and we're past those problems, and we're starting to really see how the whole concept is starting to come together. Look at that. Nice. Who put the awning up? I was like completely avoiding putting that up. It looked really heavy.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't here.
Wow. Every job has a pinnacle moment where it turns, and the momentum switches. And that turning point came when the floors went down. Up until then, the place was a disaster. It was like a war zone. And then the floor goes down, and it's like, whoa. Like overnight, it's like move-in ready.
When I went in there, it was pretty unbelievable. It kind of took you back to what the house originally looked like. It's a little bit like you're walking back in time, but in this like new moment.
It's that aha moment where you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. What we envisioned is really coming to reality. It's perfect. What more can you ask?
We made some magic.
The entire team has worked tirelessly on this job the last 10 days, getting it ready for them to move in. We're actually not climbing an uphill battle anymore. We're starting to go downhill toward the finish line. So today, we finished a job that honestly had a lot of really tough, virtually impossible tasks inside it. We're gonna meet with Hadley and see, what she really thinks of the final product. I was worried these weren't gonna look right, but they actually look really good.
So in the living room, we exposed some of the beams that are on the outside walls of the home.
There were points where I was nervous about how it would end up, but I trusted you guys in the process. Came back and you could really see the vision. Just feels so much more balanced in here.
Totally.
For us, a kitchen is really what we focus on. It's the heart of the home.
My husband affectionately calls this the altar because we are at the center of the house.
Right?
He's like, this is where it would have been.
Putting in more modern type of fixtures and elements into the house is very necessary, but I also think that it helps to preserve these homes. I love these lights.
They are one of my favorite things. Working with Lizzy to choose the light fixtures has just been a pleasure.
The nice thing is you have really high ceilings. So these lights work perfectly. In a normal height ceiling kitchen, these would be like touching the countertop.
Yeah.
The kitchen was very large before, and we took up some of that space to make the pantry and the butler's pantry.
Right now it feels like calming and well organized. I know where everything is. All of the wallpaper we put in here really made such a difference in the design.
Remember when houses like this were built, they were covered in wallpaper, right? And now it's coming back. One of my favorite parts of your house is the entry. It has like the banister of my dreams.
You can't even tell, but like they added this piece in here. They added a piece under here, and then they trimmed it out all with mahogany so it would match. It took them a full day to just do that. Well, let's go check out upstairs. What a room fit for a little girl.
She really won.
This room is so beautiful. I like that you repurposed this light. The biggest thing about this room is that we added the bathroom because the bathroom used to be the laundry room.
So this is a light that got moved from downstairs.
Yes.
This was the highlight of your attic.
I can't believe you found it. Because we've been looking for things since we moved in. We had been trying to find original hints of what the house used to be, and just, this is too perfect.
And then the other thing I love is how we were able to salvage this tin ceiling. And I remember when you guys first came to us, you wanted to expose this stained glass window, right?
Right.
And I think by removing this wall, not only did we expose it, but you could see it from your kitchen.
It was such an amazing visual moment with the sun coming through it, filling the space with intention.
We should go upstairs.
Yes.
I mean, it's clearly an
Right.
original structure.
These are the 4 posts that supported the original bell tower.
Figuring out ways to make it feel livable but preserve the history was paramount.
I had never seen this photo.
That's the actual bell that's now at the Henry Ford Museum in Michigan, and it says Revere Boston at the top. That's the engraving.
Tell me the significance of this bell.
It was a wedding gift from one of my husband's groomsmen at a wedding reception. We had everyone ring little bells. Here we are, 13 years later, and our life has become all about this bell tower.
Well, thank you so much for putting up with us. And we're super psyched that you guys are so happy.
You know, I think PJ had a really good time with this house.
One of the things I loved about this job was that it pushed us outside of our normal design sense. It's not a modern home. It's a classic home with elegant touches. Lizzy did a great job of taking this client's vision, bringing it to life, but then utilizing what we had there that was so historic and beautiful and playing off it.
We were able to completely reimagine the inside, but keep that true historical aspect to the house that's been standing since 1829.
It's been a journey for sure. I'm confident that we have brought this house into the future while also still paying homage to where it's been and the spirit with which it was first constructed.